Hey guys, what's up? It's Peacemaker. I'm here. I'm filling in for Pete. He had to go get his Taco Bell subscription renewed. Brian, you must be a little bit confused over there too, but I'm going to be here to talk about the show tonight.
Wow, I'm so shocked we have such a huge star here for our little show.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. I just, saved the world, last week. So
I figured you'd be on like a bigger show, like anything else.
No, I like 50 subscribers. That's how I do it. 50 states, 50 subscribers. The states that matter.
So, my first question for you: what's your helmet power here?
My helmet power is it's like a Magneto type helmet where instead of metal though, it brings together like paper plates.
Wait, Magneto. How do you know who he is?
It's I'm in the multiverse. It's the multiverse of madness. I started that shit first.
Oh shit, that's what season 2 is about. Then you just spoiled it.
Yes, yeah. Doctor Strange stole that from me. That's what happens. Marvel takes all the big ideas from DC. Vigilantes going around killing off their, villains and stuff, so they don't have a rogues gallery. That was here first, man.
I would love to hear your rumors that you hear about Marvel superheroes.
Oh yeah. Well, Spider-Man, he's British.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's actually a British guy. I'm just gonna wear this. I don't know if I can like ad lib as good as John Cena and stuff, but I'm gonna wear this until I feel utterly ridiculous. So probably about another 2 minutes. What's up, everybody? It's Anchorpete. I realize this is live on Twitter and also on our podcast, which you guys will hear. For those of you that can't see this, I'm actually wearing a cut plate and some pieces of foil for a Peacemaker helmet, a makeshift Peacemaker helmet. I'm Anchorpete. This is Comic Books Transformed, and I'm here with my good friend Brian. Brian, how you doing tonight?
Doing good, Peacemaker.
Nice, man. So we are here to talk about the finale of James Gunn's superhero epic Peacemaker, starring the very talented John Cena and an awesome cast. We've thoroughly enjoyed the show, and so for tonight, we're just focused on that last episode. So if you guys are around, you want to comment, tell us what you thought about that last episode, which is It's Cow or Never, episode 8. So, Brian, I'm going off of your notes right here. And the very first thing that you had for your notes was you mentioned that Green Arrow reference, right?
Yes. Well, I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed all the little rumors that Peacemaker is told about the various DC characters. I hear laughter in the background.
So my daughter just walked up and saw my face and burst out laughing. So yeah, the rumors.
Yes, and I've enjoyed all of them, but I just particularly like this one because someone else confirmed it was quote unquote true, and then it was the first reference of Green Arrow in the larger DCEU. Prior he was mainly confined to the the CW Arrowverse, and it was just like a cool nod to see someone that's hasn't been seen or referenced before. That's a little bigger, I suppose. I mean, right. They've named out a few other characters like what was it, Batmite and Kite Man and Matter Eater Lad. Yeah, but this was somebody that's a little bigger that they haven't really addressed if they exist in the DCEU, and it was just a cool reference.
Yeah. I like all the references, and I'm going to talk about this and the rest of the DC continuity. I'm just going to take this off at this point, but like there's this whole decades worth of continuity now with the CW, with Arrow, right, and Flash, and I wish that it kind of could all come together. Of course, tonally and stuff, it doesn't fit at all. I just really love the Stephen Amell version of Oliver Queen. I wonder who they would cast in the DCEU version of Green Arrow.
Yeah, I imagine it's got to be something that would be slightly different. I feel like Ezra Miller is slightly different than is fairly different from Grant Gustin.
Yeah,
I think they would try to make it as different as possible without completely being a different character.
And we just start. Well, I just started watching Doom Patrol again just to kind of catch up because we're going to talk about Doom Patrol after this in our little gap between now and Moon Knight. And I kind of wish that Doom Patrol and the Titans and stuff were mixed together with this Peacemaker universe, because obviously that stuff doesn't fit in with the CW stuff, but I feel like it could fit with Peacemaker.
Well, that's the funny thing is the Titans and Doom Patrol aren't even in the same universe.
Isn't that weird? And I think the Doom Patrol was on an episode of Titans, weren't they?
Yeah. It was like it was before they cast Timothy Dalton too. So it was like a different Niall Calder and
Chief.
I think it was they implied that Garth was with them at some point, which he was an original member of that team. Well, not original, but he was an early member of that team. So, but I think they flat out said it's we had some of the same actors there, but it's not the same thing. They're not the same universe or anything like that.
Yeah, that stinks, man. I don't know. I really have dug Doom Patrol, and I really like Peacemaker. It just makes me love DC. We sit here, and I think the problem is they focus on the characters that everyone knows, Batman especially, and then Superman, Wonder Woman. Everybody knows these characters, and they interpret them in a different way, and it feels weird, and it makes people butt heads with each other because they don't like the interpretation. But then these characters that are not as super well known, like the Doom Patrol, like Peacemaker, who nobody knew about at all, they can do whatever they want with them, and it's okay, because as long as it's like an original take that's interesting, it's all right. It's not like decades and decades of continuity to kind of go against.
Yeah, well, I mean, they probably did take some things from the Peacemaker continuity. I mean, there's at least one thing I know they took. But I remember reading an interview with John Cena, and he said, James Gunn told him, don't read any comic books because we're doing our own thing here. So, I mean, that was more for the Suicide Squad movie than this show. But, it's a valid thing. I mean, I think with... you could say the same thing about Guardians of the Galaxy. You could probably say the same thing about Eternals. These kind of not as well-known properties that they're turning into these big things, and they're fairly different compared to the lesser changes they would make with like Captain America or Spider-Man or something like that.
Yeah, really well put. I kind of want more of this, and we know that we're getting a season 2, so the more they build this stuff up, I would love to see crossovers with this stuff. But while we're at this point, let's actually talk about what happened in the episode itself, in the last episode. So essentially, the team goes to destroy this cow creature that's on this farm that's feeding off that's feeding the butterflies. They take that out, and essentially the butterflies are doomed, right? And the team is able to get up to the base, and their plan is to drop one of the helmets that Peacemaker had from his dad into the barn to set off a seismic charge, right? And did you like that sequence where they had Eagly go to drop the helmet, and they just dropped the helmet in the woods?
Yeah, no, because they had this really epic music where he was like, "Oh, he's gonna do it! He's really gonna do it!" And nope.
Right.
Left turn.
I just I love the humor on there. It's something out of Three Amigos or something. That's sort of just random goofball comedy. But then the battle begins, and some really dramatic stuff happens. They start playing the Peacemaker theme song, and it was kind of cool to see them all sort of marching straight to go fight the butterflies. And there's some real bloody violence. But before that, Economos had a chance to shine, right?
Yes, he got to go over and deliver the Sonic Boom helmet because Eagly was not capable of doing it.
Yeah. So essentially, he was the only member of the team that the butterflies wouldn't recognize. And he sneaks in there, and then I actually thought they were going to take him out because, if you look at the Suicide Squad movie, Polka Dot Man makes it all the way to the very end, and he has this sort of heroic moment, and then Starro just smashes him, right? So spoilers for the Suicide Squad. But I thought that maybe Economos was going to get taken out by the butterflies at the very end there, especially after he did that speech.
Yeah. So I had strong feelings that we were going to lose somebody in this episode, but it didn't happen, which was strange. I know. But that speech was great. I think there were a lot of moments that in this series we've talked about before too. They're kind of these really sad, pathetic moments, and this is yet another one with this time with Economos. But it shows that how he feels about himself in general, and what his life is like, and how this group has changed him, I guess, in a way.
Yeah.
I appreciated that. It gave him a little spotlight, like you mentioned, and then he comes back and there's more laughter again because they kind of make fun of him for like, what the hell am I doing then? Because they say Adebayo's the last one left or something,
Right.
and then it kind of almost trips and breaks his shin.
Yeah. Well, you make a good point there. Like you said that he essentially the team changed him and made him better, right? And I feel like I mentioned this last episode that the characters just have gotten better since the first episode, where I kind of like the majority of them, but then by the finale, I was like, oh, there's the Economos, and there's Mern's not there, he's dead, but Hardcourt, right? And everybody had their own moment to shine, and I was just like, oh, I want to see some more of them. And anytime that something has you want to see more, obviously that's a good sign. It's interesting because Guardians of the Galaxy is only a movie. I think it's like maybe a little over 2 hours. But it makes me wonder if James Gunn had this sort of format where he could have stretched it out over a period of like 8 episodes. Would we like that crew even more? Would it be even more enjoyable? Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, space movies, space settings are ripe for TV shows. Serialization like that. I mean, they work as movies too, but like characters. I mean, I think all these things can work as weekly shows or whatever. I mean that they're from comic books. They're a monthly format. I mean, everything would be better, I think, like that. But but obviously maybe some of these bigger arcs and storylines or even origins, can fit in these movie things better.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah. So I mean, Vigilante is yet another character that, like, I think he was a little bit annoying when we first met him. I've liked him since the beginning. But I actually thought that he was going to die when he got shot and he fell to the ground. I was like, oh, wow, okay, they killed him off. Did you think that he died at that point?
Yeah, I definitely did. I thought he died. I thought Harcourt died. I thought Economos was dying when they were kind of flocking around him, the butterflies. Mm-hmm. I literally thought each one of them died. So,
did you think that Adebayo died when she was shot into the alien?
I thought she died when she got shot into the rock wall.
Oh yeah. Our boy Danny, who also contributes to this channel now for our Raised by Wolves episodes, he wrote, "I can't hear you," which that makes me a little worried because I think it might be though because he's got us on mute because he's at. Yep. Oh shit. We don't want to overlap. But anyway, I'm out to dinner in LA. Good for you, Danny. But I love this episode of the series so much. Peacemaker was better, in my opinion, than every MCU series. So I was going to say a line like that, Brian, but do you agree with that or disagree with that?
Man, yeah, I think I do. I think it's because there was not a single weak episode. Every episode brought something new to the table. There's not a weak performance in the entire show. It completely turned me around on characters and actors for the most part. I think so. This might be this might even be the best thing that DC's put out in terms of
you mean in modern times, not like The Dark Knight.
Recently, yeah. Sorry, yes.
Okay.
I was going to say easily the best thing in the DCEU.
Yes,
I think.
Yes.
That's kind of what I was getting at. There are other things that are great. The Dark Knight trilogy, of course. But this was just really, really good.
Yeah. Oh, we got another guest commenter over here. Mike Benjorno from Pop Culture Man-Children said, I went from I don't care about that show. Oh, look, he's got a little two-parter here. To it's okay to I love it. And, Mike, I actually went through that same process myself. I don't think I was in the it's okay phase for too long. I felt they were a little annoying at the beginning, but then once we got to Vigilante, in the prison, I was like, okay, I'm on board. I like this a lot. And especially when they were at Peacemaker, just sitting there mourning in his little trailer. I was like, oh yeah, I'm all on board for this. I think seeing John Cena and just seeing his range and how good John Cena just made me love the show more and more every week.
Totally agree. I had a similar trajectory with this show, to the point where I was gonna cancel HBO Max at the end of the year last year because the day and date movie thing ended.
Yeah.
And I didn't really, we were going to cover this and we didn't have anything to cover. So you said, oh yeah, let's do Peacemaker. I'm like, I guess I'll keep HBO. And then I went from literally the opening scene and the credits. I stopped the show and I went upstairs. I told my wife, okay, we have to watch the show. This is amazing. I went from getting rid of HBO because I didn't care to, 3 minutes in being totally hooked.
Yeah, it's that opening credits, man. It's so freaking good. I just played it a couple of hours ago for my wife and my daughter. I was trying to do the dance because James Gunn did a little strip that shows all the dance moves for Peacemaker.
I saw that, yeah.
I was trying to learn that. So yeah, I mean, my family doesn't watch the show at all, but it's somehow left a mark on them too. Just from that opening credits. So yeah, and it just, I mean, HBO Max. Honestly, I don't want to go off on a big tangent on that, but it's become my main streaming service, and just give us more grown-up superhero shit like this. I want more of it, included with all my other stuff I watch. But
I definitely feel like I really got to go back and reassess Titans after.
Yeah, I want to watch that too now. Yeah,
after we do Doom Patrol.
Yeah, right. So we kind of are going off on tangents because we're getting some comments from our friends and stuff. But just to kind of bring it back to your notes. You were wondering about the Butterfly's true intentions, and was it like, are they working for the betterment of mankind, or was Goff just sort of saying that to Peacemaker? What did you think?
No, I thought what they were saying was sincere.
Okay.
And I think it was just their methods were questionable. And they said Myrn didn't approve of their methods. So, but I really thought that it was an honest and sincere plea to ask Peacemaker to help them. And for a second, I thought he was gonna, because they tied it in so well with his own kind of path, and as soon as they said we took a vow, and they started flashing back to him as a kid. I really thought that was going to be like the big twist of the show, but I mean, they just kind of double twisted, and then he killed them.
Yeah. There's that line that he says in the Suicide Squad movie. I think he says it in the show once too, but it's along the lines of I want peace at any cost, and I'll kill any man, woman, or child to achieve it, or something like that. Yeah. And that goes along with the Butterflies and their agenda. It's almost like they have the same kind of mindset. It's if genocide is part of this, if a lot of people die, if it's for the greater good, then it's worth it. And I think that even though he did kill them kind of brutally, it showed growth, right? Because if he had gone along with them, then he'd still be going along with that mindset. And I think that mindset is kind of connected to his father and his old ways. And I think they did flash back to when he killed, what is it? What's this? Rick Flag, right?
Yeah.
They did a little flash of him real quick.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. So I think there's clearly growth. And the very last shot of the episode, let's talk about that before we go into the cameos and shit. But the very last shot, I was like, this is gold. This is so well done. That shot of him sitting on the porch, and Goff comes flying in as a butterfly and lands right next to him, and he has some of the honey, and then his dad comes out as a ghost. I just thought that was chef's kiss, man.
Well, before you get to that, I mean, yeah, and the looks on both John Cena's face and Robert Patrick's face are fucking perfect.
Yes,
John Cena's kind of like what the hell's going on? And he starts drinking the beer, go away, and then you have this really sinister look on Robert Patrick's face. Oh, that was perfect. But the one thing I really wanted to point out about that is we saw his dad earlier in the episode.
Oh, okay, yeah,
the helmet. And I found this really interesting that he pops out and he's kind of berating Peacemaker, calling him worthless and all this other stuff, exactly like he perceives his dad thinks of him. But at the same time, that hallucination helped them find the helmet. He shot that dart into the tree, and which hit his ghost dad in the face. And then Robert Patrick falls. You actually hear him you hear the helmet, the body hit the helmet. You hear a metal clang. And I thought that was really interesting and a nice. I don't know what the word is, but like I liked it because it was it kind of symbolized what their life was prior, because his father hated him, he resented him, but he still helped him. Yes. And even in death is still doing that, and even if it's just a Peacemaker's perception of it.
Yes. Yeah, that trope is a very used trope. Like I've seen that many, many times before, where essentially like the person's main foil is in their head and they're always saying negative things about them, but then they're almost kind of like secretly helping them. I mean, it's in like Battlestar Galactica. It's in Farscape. It's really done well in Farscape with this one character, Scorpius, and the main character. It's in, I mean, there's so many examples, right? In comics, they have it all the time, just of like, the embodiment of a character's doubts or their self-loathing is usually like their enemy or someone that they let die or something. And in this case, he killed his father. And so it's like, this embodiment. But then I've seen this a couple of times, like where, like you just said, like somehow that part, even though it seems to embody that self-doubt, it also kind of embodies this other part that's like the survival or like helps them figure out things. So I'm all on board. Last time we talked, you mentioned how, it would be a shame to kind of waste Robert Patrick by having him die last episode, and maybe he would come back as a ghost. And there you go.
So funny you mentioned that too, is that I think I tweeted this to you, but that actually is from the comics. His Christopher Smith's father was like an actual Nazi. He was not. Oh my God, I forgot the character's name.
He wasn't. White Dragon.
Yeah, it wasn't White Dragon, but he was an actual Nazi, and he was kind of haunting him in a way. And that was the thing I said before. Like they said, don't read the comics, but that was something they obviously took from the comics.
Yeah, and while we're talking about comics, this was in the notes, but I just wanted to bring this up too. That we've talked about a couple of times now how these characters are all taken from Charlton, right? And you and I were having this discussion about how there's similarities between this and the comics, like what you just said, but most likely the comics of Peacemaker aren't going to be like this show yet. Like maybe moving forward they will be. But for the Charlton characters, we've talked about this where it's like, Peacemaker, they changed him into the comedian for Watchmen. And the Question, they changed him into Rorschach for Watchmen, right? I've always said, hey, how come they didn't make a team like this? Why didn't they make a team like this in the comics? Turns out they actually did. And I just found out about them. They were called Law, but it was like L.A.W. And it was the team of like Peacemaker, The Question, Blue Beetle, and the girl, because you know how in Watchmen it's Silk Spectre?
Yeah.
Right? The girl is Nightshade, who's another DC hero too.
Yeah.
So I just thought it was cool. And I just wanted to mention that because I always said, like, how come they don't have a team of this? They actually do have a team of that.
Nice.
Yeah, I would check it out, but I think it's from like the 90s and stuff, so it might not be that great.
Oh, 90s comics. Oh.
Yeah. But just to get back on track, you asked the question of why did Goff come back at the end? So what's your speculation?
Well, I think it's really interesting that also in that final scene there that I mean, when they kill the slug, he activates the helmet autobio and kills the cow, and then he shoots Locke in the head, but he shoots Goff in the chest.
Right.
I thought that was very interesting that he spared the Goff butterfly, and I think that's probably could explain why it came back to where he lived and all that. Because he clearly has some of the food left over, so maybe that's the only they can eat. But yeah, it was interesting. I want to know if that butterfly will hang around. I'm kind of curious why it didn't go inside anybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it needs less food outside of a body, and it can live longer. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's like probably two ways they can go with it. Obviously, by the first episode of season 2, we'll see. Like I took it as maybe John Cena or the Peacemaker had the last supply of the honey, and so when he poured, like he didn't just open the jar and let it go get the honey. He poured it out onto the deck, and that could have been like, this is the last jar. You're done after this, and you're gonna go die. And I think that maybe it didn't take over another person because it was kind of like, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to die anyway. There goes my species. It was either that or that Peacemaker has this extended supply of that stuff, and it's just going to be subservient to Peacemaker and not try to fight with him because it's just by itself. I don't know. They obviously have some kind of bond from when Peacemaker held it captive in his trailer. So I guess we'll see if it like just essentially came there to eat that one last time and die, which if that happened, oh boy, I would actually really appreciate that. That takes it to another dramatic level than like if you keep his head or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. We got a little comment from Adit over here. Unlike the MCU shows, Peacemaker felt like a TV series rather than movies being turned into a TV series. Thank you, Adit. That is a astute point, I think. Because, like, I think he's got a point. Some of the MCU shows kind of felt more episodic, whereas this felt more like an HBO show, whereas the MCU shows feel like MCU movies kind of just cut down.
Well, yeah, I feel like the MCU shows feel like for the most part, they feel like it's a movie cut up into bits.
Yeah.
But this felt like it was written episodically, like really written episodically, because the way they ended each episode, just there was basically a cliffhanger in almost every episode. And they really pushed the envelope with that, I think. So yeah, I could totally agree with that. But I'm curious, Adit, if you feel that's a positive or a negative. That's why I kind of paused for a minute. I was trying to process that.
I think that with DC and with Marvel, if they're gonna do shows, they should totally lean into the format and not try to like make them into movies that are just cut up. Like DC for the longest time had the Batman the Animated Series and Superman the Animated Series and Justice League all in this one continuity. And it was made for cartoons. Even though they were like continuing stories, it still felt like a cartoon versus like a comic or something else. And I think that's you got to make it work within the medium. That's just my personal belief.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You know, and honestly, if they make the spinoff of the Suicide Squad with a new character and then this, and like they kind of cross them over and stuff, I'd eat that shit up in a second.
You know, I mean, they have talked about a second spinoff of the Suicide Squad, and they said it would be very different in tone. But I mean, any like thoughts on what that could be, or what you would like to see?
So I think because we've talked about this before too, right? That like it could be like Ratcatcher 2, it could be Bloodsport. Maybe it's like Polka Dot Man, but it's like a prequel because he dies, right? Or I mean, it's not going to be Harley. No. So who else is alive at that point?
Yeah, excellent point. Right. I feel like it's not going to be Idris Elba. I don't see him wanting to do a TV show. And I could swear I just saw an article where he says he wants to pivot out of acting and get more into music.
Really?
Yeah.
Shit.
So we'll see where that goes. But you're right. I definitely don't think it's Margot Robbie. I think she wanted to take a break from the character for a little while. So that really just leaves Ratcatcher, I guess, unless we're going to go into like an Amanda Waller show.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, that would be cool though too. You know, with James Gunn at the helm. He said it would be different in tone from Peacemaker. That's what makes me think it's like kind of by process of elimination, Ratcatcher 2. And what's cool is that like you could maybe have Taika Waititi show up in like flashbacks or like be a ghost himself, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. But I mean, honestly, with James Gunn, I kind of have complete faith in him. And it's like whatever he wants to make, man. Let's see. Adit's got another one over here. I feel like Jason Momoa said yes to cameo when Gunn promised he could say the F word. Yeah. All right, well, that actually brings us up to one of your points on here, which is the Justice League cameos.
Yeah. So I have a bunch of things to say about this. So first, just going a little background, I read that initially they just had Jason Momoa, and James Gunn pre-mentioned the fish joke to him, and Jason Momoa has had resistance to that in the past. But I guess he was like, okay, yeah, James Gunn. Okay, sure, let's do it. So I mean, I don't know if he felt pressure to do it, if he just wanted to work with Gunn or something, or I don't know. But I found it interesting because he has vocally said like, I'm tired of the fish jokes, and in real life, and then they did a fish joke. And then the funny thing too is that Marvel shot the scene of Ezra Miller.
Yeah,
which I found very interesting. So we know that the actor playing Myrn is in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. We don't know who he's playing yet.
Okay.
But the Peacemaker team shot a screen test for Marvel with him. So Marvel returned the favor by filming Ezra Miller for that scene on the set of Guardians 3.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
So,
yeah. Because I know that like on the Weekly Planet they were saying that like Ezra Miller was filmed by himself, Jason Momoa was filmed by himself. They just kind of put them all together, right?
Yeah, I think Jason Momoa was actually on set. I think I'm not 100% sure. And then obviously there were stand-ins for Wonder Woman and Superman. And I'm kind of tired of the stand-ins for Superman kind of thing. Like, just do it. Give us Superman or don't give us Superman. Just get rid of him or give it. Like, just do one thing.
Yeah. Because like obviously in comics there's been panels where you just have the Justice League as like shadows and they're maybe in the background or something. But normally like Superman has a very like his presence is so commanding, right? Just to kind of have him be like floating to the side. It works for the joke, but not necessarily in the context of that universe. And I know what you're saying, right? Because he shows up in Shazam and you just see like the bottom of his body and he's in this. It's funny because like Henry Cavill has said like, oh, I'd do it again. I'd be Superman again. And like this week, did you see all the pictures of him at like Warhammer Land or whatever they have?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. It's like Warhammer World. And I wanted to tweet this, but it's like all these people just like standing politely with him, smiling. I'd be like shitting my pants if I was right next to Henry Cavill.
Absolutely.
The picture be like this of me, like,
I'd probably feel the same way if that happened. But I just want them to give me an answer. Like, is Henry Cavill coming back? Is he done? Are they giving us a different Superman? Like, what are you doing? Like,
let me know. A fucking plan. Yeah. I don't know, man. And then, obviously no Batman and no Cyborg, and that's because of Ben Affleck. And I know that what's the actor that played Cyborg?
Ray Fisher.
I know that he's just kind of done with Warner Brothers too.
Yeah.
I
mean, they could have had them as stand-ins or something like that, but I didn't mind their absence so much as I minded, another non-Superman sighting.
Yeah. So I mean, it was cool, and I said this before that like. This show was so good for me. It elevated all the DC things that have come out since Man of Steel. So I will accept everything that DC has put out, including Batman v Superman, including the Suicide Squad. I'll accept all that shit, and I'll have it with the Snyder cut. I'll take all that if you make it combined with Peacemaker. It's all good for me.
Yeah. I'm on board there. I mean, we clearly like these shared universe things. I know DC's kind of doing their own thing with, the Batman being separate. And I guess, I mean, maybe even this Flash movie is going to separate it further. Who knows?
Yeah.
I would like this all to be a thing.
Yeah. So with Peacemaker continuing on, what do you think we're getting in season 2?
No idea. I'm real curious if this is going to continue at all with the butterflies. If there's going to be some like other minor supply, and then some other butterfly is going to come in from somewhere else and try to take revenge or something, or if they completely go in a totally different direction. I really liked that in this episode that Adebayo kind of makes like a press conference. I don't know where the hell that was. I mean, it was like in some like ransacked building. Which was really strange. But she exposes the Task Force X program to the the public, and I wonder if that plays into something like that. We see Amanda Waller saying "What the fuck," is watching the newscast. So I wonder if that ties in. If Argus is going to get investigated or she's going to get shut down somehow. There's a lot of ways places it could go. A lot of ways they could do things, but it really could be anything. I don't feel like they gave us any clear hint.
Yeah. I have no idea. I personally don't think there'll be more with the butterflies. I feel like that's kind of wrapped up by this point. Like I said, either Goff is dead and like that was the last bit of honey, or he's gonna be like a little pet, like almost like a little baby Groot that's around for the next season. And then I think they'll just bring in like a brand new threat. Peacemaker, he was sitting there at the bedside of Harcourt, and he was, there for her. Basically, I think that like their relationship will develop a little more. Vigilante, I think, will just be back as his sidekick. It might just be that like they're not involved in any kind of mission, but they just kind of get themselves into some big trouble with somebody, because that's essentially what. Go ahead.
How do you lower the? Do you lower the stakes, or how do you raise the stakes after this?
Yeah.
Like this was an invasion by an alien race. Some crazy stuff happened.
Yeah.
What do you do? I mean, you fought a bunch of white supremacists. Like, what is the thing do you make this smaller and tighter, or do you make this even bigger?
Good question. I think let's consider James Gunn's history, right? Because on the Weekly Planet, they were saying how the Suicide Squad movie and this had a very similar premise in the sense that like you had Starro and his fish or starfish taking over people, right? And then in this you have the butterflies, right? And Peacemaker has to essentially, Suicide Squad has to take him out in the first movie. Peacemaker takes him out in this one. James Gunn has done that with like Slither, and with Guardians, the first one, it was like Ronan the Accuser, right? He was the main villain. And then the second one, it was Ego, and Ego was like trying to take over the planet. So I mean, I think he does, because it seems like he has that sort of like that collective villain thing going on a lot, where the villain kind of takes over other people. But I thought Ego was good as a villain in second Guardians.
Yeah, I agree. Although I'm kind of blanking on what his ultimate goal was in that movie right now. I haven't watched it in a while.
Yeah. We got a couple more comments here too. Adit wrote like, yes, Jason Momoa on set. Miller was added in by Gunn post-production when Gunn asked Ezra Miller if he was interested in appearing in Peacemaker. Okay, cool.
Well, I had heard actually that Ezra Miller, James Gunn heard that Ezra Miller was a fan and that he wanted to work with them, and then he reached out and they made it work.
Nice. Okay. And then he agreed with you too. He said, I 100% agree with you. Either bring Henry and give him a proper send-off or just announce a recasting, because Henry's so enthusiastic about potentially returning. It's just sad we don't see him. And then Mike is still on here too. And he said, you make it character stakes. So he's saying like the threat should be that you're worried about the characters. And I think that's a good point, because at this point we're super invested in these characters. We're not necessarily worried about, is the world going to be saved? It's more like, our favorite character is going to die. So I think he's got a good point there.
Yeah, but they kind of did that. Like, we pretty much thought everybody was going to be dead. It was dead at some point in this episode. Right. I guess they could deliver on that next season, but I don't want anybody else to die.
Right. No, neither do I. I would really love for James Gunn to take a villain that's not well known, but maybe you and I might know, and then just like make him a really badass villain in the next season. And that's the threat. And it doesn't matter what the context of it is, but I really want like a good villain. I thought the Ego was a good villain in the second Guardians movie. Ronan the Accuser he's just kind of like a plot device in the first Guardians.
Super throwaway villain, yeah.
Right. And then let's just see. Adit has one more too. Henry can be a really good Superman, like Brandon Routh had the potential to be a great Superman, but a pretty mediocre script that let him down. Well, isn't that the case with like every Superman movie that's come out? past Christopher Reeves, right? I actually like a lot of Man of Steel, but there's a lot of dislike too, so it kind of balances out.
Yeah, I agree there.
I mean, that's kind of a whole nother discussion in itself. But yeah, did you have anything else about speculation for season 2 of Peacemaker?
I'm gonna imagine Judo Master's gonna come back. I'm glad they kind of showed him in the end there. I mean, there was no crazy like revelation about why he was working with them. He just believed in their cause. But I mean, the fact that they showed him, I think he'll be back in some capacity next season. Maybe he'll even join the team. Who knows?
Yeah, I would like that. Yeah, I was trying to get Clementine to go on my shoulder, and I was going to do the pose for the thumbnail of like holding her from the song, but she didn't want to be Judo Master. Yeah, I am all down for season 2. I would love to talk about it with you. I'm so glad that you decided to watch this with me, and we watched it all the way through. That sounded almost like a poem right there. But yeah, I promise next time I won't wear a goofy piece.
No, save that for the season 2 premiere.
There you go. No, dude, I'm gonna get one made out of metal for next time. It'd be badass. But Brian and I have a few things coming up down the pike, or down the pipe, not the pike. We're not playing baseball. We have the next 4 weeks. We're doing Doom Patrol, and that's Doom Patrol season 3. So if you guys have not yet watched Doom Patrol season 3, go ahead and watch it. It's pretty fantastic so far. And then we're also going to cover The Boys Diabolical, which is that animated show, which is coming out, I think in the second week of March?
Something like that, yes. And I'm curious if that'll be a once a week thing like The Boys, or if it'll be a big one-time drop. Because it's not serialized, right, and it's not it isn't animated. But I guess they did Invincible once a week, so maybe it will be.
And that was fucking fantastic too.
Oh
yeah. My god, yeah. So we got a lot of content coming out, and that's all leading up to Moon Knight, which comes at the end of March. So
and don't forget Young Justice coming back in March too. Sometime we don't have a date, but
what the hell?
There could be a point where we're doing 4 shows in a week.
2-hour episodes. Here we come. So anyway, yeah, that's been it for Peacemaker. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. And we'll be here next week to talk about another DC HBO Max gem, Doom Patrol. See y'all.